You you were in Paris 30 years ago with this project in the Culturel Center, Culturel Canadien Center,
Yes.
with those beauty spots.
Yes, I came in 1979, 80, and I was very struck. It was my first time in Paris, so I was very interested in all the beauty of the city. And then I realized that also all cities have what they call beauty spots. And so I decided to visit all these beauty spots and with my Polaroid camera take pictures of them. But the other thing that I do, and I've done for many years, is use a little mirror. I think maybe you'll see it in the video, but I use a little mirror to reflect the beauty spot, and it's in the Polaroid. And then the Polaroid was then put on a lady's body who had beauty spots on her body. And it was done in Amsterdam with a big Polaroid camera. And then they all came back and were exhibited in the Cultural Center. And luckily, we produced a very interesting calendar that went for 2 years. There was 12 images, and for each image there was 2 months. And you can see that image, that calendar, and the big Polaroids back in the exhibition now after 30 years.
So it's a kind of 3 or 4 levels image, because with the reflection, with the photo of the photo, and
yes.
And
then
print.
another photo on the lady's body, and then that photo exhibited, and then that also went over into a calendar.
That's a way to make the photo not just an image, but a gesture, or...
Well, I'm always interested in ambiguity and absurdities and levels and layers, and that's kind of the way that I function in my life. So it worked out very well with those beauty spots. So mirrors have always played a major part because they are important things in our lives. I mean, we're always looking at ourselves and everything, and it's another way to reflect on the environment that we're in.
And it gives a kind of double or complex perspective. That's an idea of the show, Canadian perspective.
Yes, yeah, that's right. Because well, I'm always interested in these different perspectives that you can have on the way of understanding our reality. You know, we're always coming at things maybe in parallel things, but sometimes in right angles. But anyways, the whole idea of perspective for this show, I think, is a very good name because it kind of covers a number of different areas.
And even those moving perspective, as in these images of cows.
Yeah, well, all my life I've been using the camera when I'm walking and when I'm riding and on my bicycle or different things. I lots of times just take photographs while I'm moving, because that's actually the reality that you're in is how you see things, and so I want to try to capture some of that. And many times I've used the camera as I'm driving. I just shoot out the side of the window, and there's a photograph in this perspective show of cows that are blurred. And that is, for me, very much about reality, and at the same time, I feel life is, basically one big blur, because every day you're moving on, and then you're trying to remember the past and so on, and wondering what the future will be. Trying to show that, and there's a number of works in the exhibition that feature aspects of this idea of passing through, which was a major big show that was done at the Art Gallery of Windsor in 2008. And it's a number of those pieces are here, a few of those pieces that give an idea of passing through.
That's the title of one of the works in the show, the one with the mirror, with the car mirror.
Car mirror, a reflection in the car mirror of another car coming along behind, and it's actually a light box, because I'm very interested in light boxes, and I have been since way back in the 60s, and they, for me, are kind of have their own internal light, and they have more kind of like a clear reality, or a kind of illuminated reality that happens with light boxes, and that's why it's been a big major element in the advertising world.
So you use those light boxes for a very long time.
Oh yeah. Over the years, at different times, come back and make them and do them, and so I'm still working with those now.
And you use during this not exactly first, but main period of your work, where you were the boss, the president of the company, and anything co.
Yeah, I way back in '66 invented a company called the NE Thing Company, N period E period Thing, and it was an idea as a way to work within the capitalist structure and have a corporation and a name as an artist, which would allow you more entree into different ways of working and seeing the world and so on. And I felt it was a very poignant way and a new way to look at what art could be.
And collective and anonymous.
And anonymous and collective at the same time in all those situations.
And then with your company, you did a lot of company things as a restaurant at the Culturel.
I did a restaurant called I Screen Restaurant, and I also did a big photography lab called Any Professional Photo Display Labs. And it became a major way to look at society and deal with things. And there was a major exhibition in the National Gallery in Canada in '69, and so it provided a new way of looking at how to be an artist. In fact, the people in France at Art and Flux are very interested, and they've started an institute that then analyzes artists that have done corporations.
Yeah, but that's 40 years after.
No, I know.
And what you did is what is very strong in that proposition is that it is, as you say, a conceptual and conceptual curators were very close of this idea, and in the same time it was very different because it has this way to be in the ordinary life, with the ordinary situations,
yes.
social structures, social reference, yes. And that's one of your main point. You work with ordinary things and people.
Yes, and ordinary products and ordinary things in life. And but also I should mention one of the major influences for me was also Marshall McLuhan. Our great communications philosopher became a part of my thinking. And actually, there's a noise right now, but that's like Marshall McLuhan talking almost, because we're all with Blackberries and we're all working on a global village right now, and everybody's becoming more communicative. But anyways, his ideas were very important for me, and it made me look at art as information. And that, I think, was a major perspective that I gained on life. And because once you realize that, I mean, the whole world is just basically information. And so we live and we swim in it every day, right?
And that's why you fired to the traditional categories between painting, photography, video. That's not your way to frame
I wanted to look at new ways to name it and call it like visual sensitivity information, or music could be sound sensitivity information, because it's there's a whole new broader way to look at all these possibilities. And so I was interested in trying to redefine those aspects. And so I owe a lot of that to Marshall McLuhan, who is still now being revisited by many different people. And in fact, I don't know if you know, but in Wired magazine, he was like a celebrity consultant or a kind of hero or a saint or something in the early days of Wired magazine. They liked him so much.
And he probably Vancouver was for something on that, because he spent time in Vancouver.
Yes.
And the position of Vancouver as West Coast, as far from the traditional structures of museum and so was important for your art, for his thinking, and for propositions to like Greenpeace, for example. That's an amazing thing that it happened in the same time.
Yes, yeah, because Canada, because of its length and its very broad country, made us become more communicative in a way, because we have to phone everybody. Otherwise, nothing happens, right? So we started to. I think Canada had, in an early period, more phones than anybody. Like we were more people who phoned everybody. And at the same time, living in Vancouver made you be more conscious of Toronto and to share these ideas and work with them. So I liked very much thinking like that, and then I put actually a telex and a telecopier, which was the forerunner of fax machines, into my house, and I use those to send information and ideas and art pieces to various museums and places in Europe and in North America and everything. So I'm always experimenting and wondering about what you can do with the idea of art.
So you were talking on this geographic reality of Canada as a big country, as a wide country, and you've been testing this reality through one piece, this One Canada video.
Yes, well, I actually have driven Canada about 14 different times over all the different years, and then later in my life, in the early 80s, I met Louise Chance Baxter, my partner and wife, and she comes from Trinidad, and she came to Canada years before that. But she was very interested in this country, and she loved Canada, but she had always had this dream to see the whole country. And so it was an idea that I've had, and we decided to do this collaborative piece of driving from St. John's, Newfoundland, all the way to Long Beach and Vancouver Island, videotaping every mile of the Trans-Canada Highway. So it's called One Canada Video. And the special time for that was actually 1992 was a major referendum in our country about whether Quebec would split from Canada. And so all the premiers were in Quebec at a big meeting at a place called Meech Lake. And they would have meetings which actually went on during the time that we were driving. And so we were never sure how this would result, and fortunately, from my point of view anyways, the country stayed together. But I wanted to make sure that I had an image of the length of this country and of its One Canada-ness. And so that's what's on view actually, and it's projected on the windshield of a car because it's taken out through a car. So the actual video, you can sit in a car and experience various parts of Canada.
During
101 or so hours is the actual length, but it will have a schedule, and you can decide if you'd like to see the prairies or Ontario or the British Columbia, and especially the Rocky Mountains where people go from Europe to ski, or Vancouver. So you can pick the time you'd like to see it.
So that's a way to use to use back the car as a camera, the car as a screen. It's always
well, because as I mentioned earlier, driving, I've always taken photographs. Actually, when you think about it, all of us are, when we're in our car, we're inside a camera, because we probably spent, I don't know how many years, if you think about it, a number of years actually sitting in a car, which is our way of looking at the world. And so we all have these images, and so I've always liked the idea of shooting out of the car, and this video in particular is very interesting because that's the way, I mean, when you drive somewhere for 14 hours, you're in this capsule, and the landscape is only what's happening on the window.
Name of one of my paintings. Oh no.
Do you like to pick flowers?
Oh no.
Oh, our favorite spot.
Light. Let there be light, and there was light.
Oh Lord, look at this. It's beautiful out here.
Oh,
really?
Yeah, this is like a different planet.
Bodacious Nova Scotia girls.
Bodacious.
Bodacious tatas.
Tatas, hooters. Right lane ends. What's
Sad sacks.
Do you know which way you're going again?
105.
Yes, 105 south. Rush is on.
We know this community.
Everybody and their mother's going to be going to PEI.
There's the guy with the house next to the motel with the garden.
Blue!
There. Yellow house.
Ye throwing that out of noise racket.
Oh yeah, okay. It's unusual enough. Where'd it go?
It's right there.
There's sun, drops, there's sun, there's sun, drops, there's sun, there's sun, drops, there's sun, no sun, grass, no sun.
This is how we're
No
talking
sun,
after
no
the ferry
grass, no
ride.
sun, no moon, no sun, no grass, no 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 sun, no moon, no sun, no
Just
grass,
really
no
bad
sun, no
because I went
moon,
into the
no
main
sun, no
washroom.
grass, no
It
sun,
was
no
just
moon, no
poison.
sun, no grass, no sun, no moon, no sun, no grass, no sun, no moon, no sun, no grass, no sun, no moon, no sun, no grass, no sun. No proper time of day. No shade. No shade.
And then one of your last identity, you wear it on your body,
Yeah, I
on
have it
your,
here too.
on your hat,
And
on
my
your
name.
on your name, and it's not just an image, but it's a statement.
Well, it's. I think as I got a bit older and I reached my mid-60s, I realized. I don't know. You know, you look at life and you reflect on things, and you get different kinds of perspective. And I realized that. And you know, I mentioned earlier, I'm very interested in language and how you can play with language. And I became very aware of the and symbol, and I very much like this symbol. It's called an ampersand, and it means and per se. But it's a connective conjunction in all our lives because we use it every day. We say, well, let's go downtown and we will buy something, or let's go for breakfast and we'll have coffee. Like it's always used in everybody's language, and so I wanted it to become a part of my life as a kind of philosophy, because I think life is about ands. Like you always have another and happening quite frequently, almost immediately, everywhere. And so to do that, I said I'll go to my government in Canada and I will change my name and add the and into it. So I added the name on the and on my name officially. So that's what it is, called Baxter and.
And now you copyright you.
I'm working on. I've trademarked my name and I'm trademarking the ampersand itself, because it's a way for me to look at my art and to do some new works that come around that. And in this exhibition that's going on at the Canadian Cultural Centre, you will see some aspects of that.
And so you have this ampersand on the first room in the
Yes,
show with
yes.
the shoes and books.
Yeah, and then you know, I don't know. As we pointed out earlier, I'm very interested in all kinds of consumer products and shoes and books, and you know, books are part of everybody's life in the whole world. And I have a piece that's in this exhibition, which is actually an ampersand with shoes and books, and it's called Fahrenheit 450, a homage to Bradbury and Orwell, and it's called the French ampersand version, because there's various versions in different countries. And I see the books are basically our knowledge, our learning, and as individuals we all have special books that we've loved, and so by also putting a book in a shoe, it gives the concept that we're grounded with our shoes to the world, and the knowledge is in us as a person. So it's this compact that's together about knowledge and movement and groundedness, and there's lots of play with soul, the soul of the shoe and the soul of our own souls that we all wonder about.
And there is another one, the image of another one you did in the outdoor. You did it in France, but
yeah.
it is important to see that you work inside the museum room, but you work too in the real life, and you work in the nature often.
Yeah, and I work with, you're right, with installations outside, and a number of installations have happened. One is a very giant ampersand was done at a city called Jouy in France, near Paris, and this giant ampersand is about 50 meters by 30 meters, and you will see it. And the other thing is the project in Nice was planting books, and so they're all planted in a garden. It's called Booked for Planting. And also I did a really interesting project at Rennes in 2008, which is, I worked with a sandwich company, and so I used all bread to make a bread garden because the bread itself comes from the earth, and I wanted to make a tribute back to that. And so it's the actual loaves are planted as a baguette garden.
And this preoccupation of nature is something that comes from very far away in your career.
Yeah,
even if it's now a bit ironic or playful or.
I've actually realized, well, my career developed, I never started out to be an artist, but I've ended up as one. And what's happened is I began as a zoologist, and so I have a degree in zoology. And those early courses of ecology and mammalogy and ornithology, all those became very important for the way that I look at the world. And I also was heavily influenced by Zen Buddhism, and I went to Japan, and I was very interested in the Oriental philosophy of the harmony of life and nature together. And that's kind of what we're all struggling with as a big society about global warming, and we have to become more aware and more sensitive to all of this. And so I've been making a lot of works to try to, in my little way, make a statement about that and to help people see this other perspective about how it's important that we're all one with everything, and we must work together and share.